Hey guys, how are you? Happy Friday. Let me tap in. There we go. Nice slow taps. And then I give y'all my derp chin every single time. All right. This is good. Let me zoom back out every single time. Okay. All right. We are in frame. Happy Friday, guys. I hope you all are excited for the weekend, rested, ready to enjoy yourself. Maybe get into some early winter cleaning like I did last weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed that snow day for adults we just had, if you had it here in Michigan. As you can hear, we have no music jams for this night's tutorial because we are going to be doing airbrush makeup. So today we're working on airbrushed complexion. This one is really, really fun, cool, and if you can practice it, learn it, and we have a workshop actually coming up for airbrush makeup and perfect it. I think you really like airbrush makeup. It's great to add to your artistry if you are a makeup artist. Clients love it, especially our brides. It's a nice, lightweight, just beautiful. It's lightweight, beautiful, full coverage, layerable complexion, and it just looks flawless in photos. Quite often, it is a faster application, and I quite enjoy airbrush makeup. Funny story about me back when I used to freelance for Christian Dior. This tattoo right here, and I had shorter hair at the time, had to be covered at all times, no matter what. And I took my skills that I learned from Multimedia Makeup Academy with my airbrushing, and I would color correct and airbrush this tattoo over every single day. Reason being why I love to do it that way because it was dry. It was winter holiday season, so I would often have turtlenecks on or layers because it'd be cold, bouncing from store to store, and big malls and department stores get really drafty. And I wouldn't have to worry about any kind of transfer getting on my shirts. And the airbrush allowed me to be able to layer multiple times as well. Where, yes, you can do that with makeup, cream makeup, liquid, but it can get a little bit sticky and break down faster. So I really liked this method and it worked. And I used to have a tutorial over on my Facebook about how I would get rid of my tattoo for work during my Christian Dior days. So I'm very excited about this. I'm going to pop open my beverage as usual. And we're going to get right into tonight's tutorial. So I got my brows on because we're going to focus on skin today. We're mainly going to focus on technique and complexion. The first thing I'm going to do is take my Tarte blotting sheets and I'm going to make sure the excessive oil is out of my skin because I really want my airbrush foundation to be nice, flat, and dry, and I'm very oily. And we don't do airbrush makeup like we would a cream or a liquid. We do everything dry, believe it or not. So I'm just going to blot and get rid of my very oily skin. As you can see, half that sheet is covered. Just going to move that to the side. It's so different not having the music in the background. I think it's just soothing for me to have jams playing in the back. I'm going to go in with my Jack Back SPF 25 lip balm. Dry out there, so I want some hydration. I'm going to hit the gym after this tutorial. And I want my lips to be nice and hydrated. I should come back and do an update, couple-minute video on here, like a second live. And let's see how airbrush holds up through an hour-long workout. I think that's a great idea. As a matter of fact, let's do that. Let's do that. I'm going to actually come up here and do an updated live. So before I start explaining the method of airbrush makeup, I'm going to explain to you first, like I said, you do things differently when you are working with airbrush complexion. You're going to do everything dry. I still like to go in with my cream concealers, which is the way I also learned, even though I'm airbrushing. If I want to do any color correction, which we will around my nose, which is slightly red, I'm going to do that. But I like to go in with my concealer, cream. I don't like to use an airbrush concealer. And I'm going in with my Tarte Amazonian Clay Vegan and Waterproof MAC Concealer just under the eyes first. So hence dry, our beauty blender It's not damp, it's not wet. I have two here just because airbrush, you keep changing the colors, and I'll explain that. These are both dry though. So we're going to go in and conceal that under eye first. And I'm not priming, or I'm not, sorry about that. I am not priming my skin today. I can, as long as I want to have that, but I want to see how this acts on its own. The one thing I will say is, if you are going to prime your skin with a airbrush complexion, you want to make sure that the base ingredients do match. So this is an alcohol free. This is the Balletto Studio airbrush liquids. If you're going to do that, you want to do another alcohol-free primer. If you have alcohol-based makeup, then you want to do like an alcohol-based primer so that they work together well. So I'm just going to put this under my eyes, as you can see, and we're going to save the redness color correction for my airbrush machine. Take my dry beauty blender here. This would be much better blended in with the brush, actually. I love my concealer buffed in with the brush. I'm excited because I'm going to come back and do a quick couple-minute update about how airbrush holds up. I think that'd be a really fun addition to tonight's live. And hey there, I see you are tuning in, whoever you are. Thank you for watching. We're really working on being consistent and getting some more followers and content going on our YouTube channel. So I like to make sure it's in the bridge of my nose. Oh, hey, Sarah. Thank you. I want to make sure it's on the bridge of my nose. And as you can see, it's a little bit warmer than my skin tone right now in the summer. This is a perfect match. I want to make sure I'm color correcting a little bit under that eye. And I like to bring it down here and close to the bridge of my nose and inside closer to the top of my nose here, so that it blends more naturally and everything's not just focused directly under eye when I do go in to put on my foundation. Now, I am a little rusty. I used to airbrush every single day, and because I had to, as my job, like I had to airbrush and get rid of a bunch of tattoos, I got tired of doing it. I'm glad it's helping you. I'm glad, and I really appreciate you watching. That's what we do these for. That's why we're always asking you guys, what do you want to see? Don't be afraid to ask us questions. Don't be afraid to say, hey, we like this, but we don't like this. Can you show me this? That's what we're looking for. We're looking to see how we can get you guys entertained and interested, and friends and colleagues want to check out a makeup school. So I got my surface covered. Now we're going to begin with my airbrush machine. Now this is perfectly clean because I haven't used it in a while, so I don't have to prep it, and I never have to because I always clean it when I'm done. My tubing is nice and tight, and the first thing I'm going to do is turn it on. As you can hear, I always like to take the back of my hand and make sure that air pressure is where I want it and it's working properly. Nothing's broken. I have dropped this before and broke it. As you can see, there's a little bump there. So now that I have that on, and the pressure is just going to depend on what kind of ground you're covering. Are you color correcting? Are you covering up a blemish? That is when you're going to control the pressure of the air. I am going to turn this down a little bit lower because all I'm trying to do is color correct with my green where my red is, because it does tend to show through a little bit more in the winter time, and it's the only place I get red. So I'm going in with my Balletto HD Airbrush makeup, and it is in the shade Green Tea. Yes, this is compatible with Temptu Beauty. I got this after I graduated from Multimedia Makeup Academy. At the time, our program didn't come with a airbrush machine. So I got this so that after I finished CAT training, I could actually still practice what I learned so that I wouldn't get rusty at airbrushing. And this was affordable at the time. So I'm just going to put a few drops in here. Don't need a lot. I'm just doing some slight color correcting, and my skin is just typically not red. I don't need to mix this because it's one shade. I'm just going to turn my machine back on, and I'm going to go against my napkin here, and I'm going to spray my nozzle back just to see if it's working the way I want it to. And I'll show you that when we're going in more into my complexion. So I'm going to take that, make sure that surface is nice and dry. And it's going to go around my nose and give soft, close little color correcting green dots. And the reason we're using green, for people who may watch it later, if you don't know, is because the green neutralizes the red into a skin tone. So just a little, and then I turn that off, because it's actually going to come right out. That's why I don't use so many drops or I'd waste a lot of product. I'm going to take my clean beauty blender and I'm just going to pat. And you can do this with a flat brush too. It doesn't have to be a sponge. And I don't do a lot. And if I feel like I need a little more, I can amp it up. Like right here, I see just a little bit of redness. And I don't want it to go away right now. I just want to pat it into the skin because our foundation is going to help to cover that. And this is what I would have to do for my Michael Jackson tattoo. I would use a ton of green and I would color correct it. And I would do a little bit of a peach shade where the blue and black is, like a deeper peach. And then I would go over with my complexion and layer. All right. So I'm just going to pat onto that. It's going to look crazy for right now because it is airbrush. And we have nothing else on. So now that it's off, I'm going to take my solution here. And I'm going to pour a little bit of my cleansing solution. Drop that in there. I'm going to turn it back on. And I'm just going to back bubble here. And I'm mixing it up because I want it to get clean. And that's why you put napkins and towels down so you can clean. Then what I do is take that, pour it out. Keep on back bubbling. I'll take a little bit more. Make sure it's really clean. Because then we're going to go into complexion. And when I turn my machine off, I'll just take a end of a paper towel here. And I'll make sure this is clean. I also have little tools and droppers and all kinds of things to clean my airbrush machine. And get all that color out because I don't want that green to fall into my foundation. You can spray the rest of the color out. Get whatever you need. You just want to make sure it's running clear once you're done. Okay, so now that I got that, I'm just going to look at my array of shades here below me. And we're going to assess my skin tone. So my skin tone is medium to tan skin tone. That would be my top note, as I like to call it. My undertone is more on the neutral side. I am what I like to call a golden. So I am olive undertone, also yellow, and you definitely need like a peachy salmon shade to make up my skin tone and my complexion. So I want to focus on making sure it's like a neutral golden as opposed to just a neutral, because I can be pink if I do that, which we don't want. I don't have a pink undertone, or I can be too yellow. So when I look at my shades, I'm going to pick the closest one to my skin tone first. I have a bunch here. I have Sahara Sand, and I have a shade called Latte. Desert Rose is like a warm peach. Usually if I can't quite remember, I'll take a dropper and I'll swatch it on my white sheet of paper towel. So this is nice neutral or peachy for somebody who is a medium with more of a honey undertone. Latte is going to be my neutral shade with a little bit more olive in it. I'm going to try to put a drop. This guy's being stubborn. There we are. And I'm going to wipe it off. So as you can see, this has that nice olive undertone. But I can't have that alone. So that's why I add in Sahara Sand, which is a yellow shade. And I mixed the two together. So once I got the colors that I know I need for my skin tone, what we do now is we're going to mix them together and we're going to test the shade on a patch of skin. So I know that the rest of the colors are not for me. I'm going to start with Sahara Sand. I'm going to start with the more yellow shade. And I'm going to start off by putting 10 drops. Got 10 drops in there. I'm going to wipe off my nozzle. For this formula and for the amount that they give you in the Valletta Studio HD Airbrush, I like to do 16. If you do cat, the numbers scheme and the way you mix them is a little bit different. So what I do is, now that I have my sand, I'm going to go in with Latte. This is the more olivey shade. I'm going to do 6 drops. Now, the reason I put more of the yellow undertone than the olive, because I feel like I have just a little bit more yellow than I do that olivey shade, but I still need it to make up my skin tone. So that's why there's less of the green, more of the yellow. Once I got the color and the amount and formula I want to make up my skin, I'm going to turn it back on. And I'm just going to lightly back bubble. I'll let my hand off a little bit so those bubbles can come down. And all this is doing is mixing my product. And as I stated, I'm just going to the gym, so I don't want a ton of coverage, but I do want a nice complexion. So once I've got that back bubbled and mixed the way I want it, I'm going to let it come down. Let those bubbles come out. And I'm going to take my napkin here. And the first thing I'm going to do is test the color. This is the way I started doing it before I put it on the back of my skin. And I look at that and I compare it to my skin tone. It looks about right. This is a formula I'm used to using, but it also is winter time. So I'm just going to take a little piece and skin test. I'm looking here in the mirror. I'm blending it and it's disappearing and I'm a happy camper. And then I'm going to do the top of my cheek, just the way I like to test my own skin. And as you can see, that is a really pretty match for my skin. So from there, I'm going to first airbrush over my color correction. I'm going to turn it up just a littlest bit. And because we're doing more of a focused color correct here, we're going to do concentrated sprays just to cover surface. And notice I'm pulling away as I do this. And as you can see, no more green. So I'm going to take my beauty blender, pat, 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 and take the other side and make sure my under eye here. If you want to, you can dust that over with powder. I usually wait till after. And the first thing I'm going to do is set this down. My little clip broke, so I'm going to do it just like that. Set it alongside my product here. Actually, my Pepsi container is going to come in handy. I should turn it off because I'm going to have to clip my hair back. And I don't want my product to fall out. I definitely have to get a new holder. So I'm going to take my hair clip that I got. I'm just going to clip the girls back a little bit. And we're going to start to put on our complexion. All right. And I lost some product. It fell right over. So I like to start with my forehead. And if you notice, I turned the volume up on my airbrush machine. I go left to right when I'm doing my forehead. And instead of the concentrated swipes we had here to conceal our color correction, I'm going to do more further away and constant sprays. And I'm always going to go in the same direction. I'm actually happy my hair is here because it doesn't feel like you're putting color on, but you can see that there is foundation in my hair. So all in the same direction, constant mist. And I do surface by surface. I don't rush it. I like to make sure it's even. So we call these veils. So I'm going to take my clean and dry beauty blender. And I'm looking in my mirror here and I'm going to pat, pat, pat. And I love that I have this manipulation of natural lighting from the lights I use so it can show me if my color formula is correct or not. But that's why I always test it too while I make it. So I'm going to do a couple more veils here. And we still got some product to keep going. So the next thing I like to do is I like to go down my nose and I tilt it a little bit. And try to follow the planes of my face. And you definitely can have your client close their eye as well so that that air is not getting into their eyes. And you'll notice too, because this curves, when I'm going that way, I will curve. And you'll know when you're running out of product because the sound will become faint. Instead of more product coming out, you'll hear like a screech. So you'll know when it's time to mix up some more formula. And it's the reason why I make sure I do all of my layers together. So when it's time to switch up to highlight or contour or blush, you don't need to go back in and you're not confused as to how much product you need to add to get your shade perfect again, because you don't want it to be splotchy or patchy or miscolored. And I like to keep mine on the steady medium to cover the surface of my face. Go back down. And always in the same direction. And if the plane of your face curves, you curve that airbrush needle. And I've already done my redness. I don't have to worry about the ridges in my nose because they're perfectly covered. I'm going to take my beauty blender. I'm going to lightly pat. And as you can see close up, that complexion is beautiful. It's just a nice lightweight veil. And our concealer's holding up pretty well. So I'm going to start moving upward here and just using up the rest of that foundation. I'm going to move her back. So my entire curl will be covered in foundation. Now you can hear it starting to sound a little bit different because we're running out of product. And I am going to do a second veil, just a nice second veil on my nose because I am in blackhead season for my nose. And I do want that covered up a little bit. And that's what I like about Airbrush because it is so flawless, but at the same time, it looks very natural. Like, I love how Airbrush complexion looks. If I had time to do this before work all the time, I would totally do so. And I do prefer the tint to Airbrush liquids because you do get a little bit more, a lot more I would say, than you do in these. And these are sulfate and paraffin free. These are silicone and fragrance free, and they are also alcohol free. And they are allergen tested, so you can still buy these. So you guys hear that? Absolutely nothing left. I don't have to worry about cleaning this out right now because at the moment, all I'm doing is creating my formula for one more veil. What makes me happiest is when I look at my complexion as this has had time to dry. Nothing's going pink on me. Nothing's giving this crazy undertone to my skin. As you can see here, I'm not done. That's that lighter patch of my skin that needs to be covered with Airbrush foundation. So we're going to go right back in with the same exact formula. We're going to do 10 drops of Sahara Sand, which is a tan yellow undertone. So we got 10, and we're going to put the lid back on so we don't need that shade anymore. And now we're going into Latte, which is a tan but has more of the olivey undertone. We're going to do 6 again, so 16 drops. And I'm not going to contour for the simple fact that I know I'm going to the gym after this, but I will do a nice light airbrush highlight because as you'll see, it looks so very natural. So I will do that. So I'm going to turn it back on low and on the back bubble so we can mix it. Take my hand off the nozzle or my finger and you can see it gets messy. Definitely your nozzle will get a bit of a mess. Those bubbles are so satisfying for me. I just want to make sure it's mixed up as well as it can be before I continue. And I'm going to pick up where I left off, then do a light second veil everywhere else. And as I'm looking in the complexion, in the mirror at my complexion, I don't need much more around the cheek area. It's actually having that nice full flawless finish because you can do too many layers of airbrush and it will look cakey and you don't want that. So I've got it mixed up the way I want it, and I'm just going to finish up on those jawline areas I've kind of missed. I'm going to turn the volume back up to medium. I'm going to get those areas. And again, you notice as I'm coming up, I'm going outward and pulling that away from me. Pulling the nozzle away from me. And of course, you can do more concentrated sprays if you see it's just a little splotch of somewhere where you're missing shade or you're missing coverage. This one was more of a longer patch. So I'm just going to blend that out. As you can see, you can make mistakes and it gets a little sticky. I'm going to blend it before it dries. And I got one little area, so I'm going to turn it down. And then try to get that better because my longer strokes were not doing the job for me, as you can see. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to get a little spots here on my forehead where it's a little bit lighter by my brow. I'm going to get a little bit closer, turn it down some. And just get that area around the brow. Still being sure to stay in that same direction and pull away. So I'm going to patch, blend that out. And as I stated, I just want a little bit more. Oh, yes, girl, take them notes. Hi. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. And I just want to get some more coverage on the tip of my nose because I am blackhead prone. And that's good enough for me. And if you see, I get closer. Look how that complexion looks, and look now you'll see that that space that was like white or negative space because there was no foundation there is now covered. And at the same time, we did not cover our brow work. And you see it's full. Don't mind the stubborn glitter on my face. So I'm going to go up on the jawline, just a few more. I don't really need any more of this foundation. If you hear it at 6, I'm going to go back up here just to make it even. And then I'm going to go across. And I just did a nice wrap around here where my under eye is so that I could merge my concealer just a bit more. So from there I take my dry beauty blender. And I pat, pat, pat. I check the mirror. And I make sure all ground is covered, everything is even. Nothing's giving me a crackle. And there's my 2 veils of foundation. As you can see, I have quite a bit left. Yes, you can lower the amount you put in. You can cut it in half if you know you just need a little bit to finish up. I always like to have a little bit more than a little bit less and have to remix the formula. So now that I'm done with this, I don't need it. We're going to move on to highlight. And we're going to do a little bit of blush too, just the slightest bit. So I'm going to take this formula and I'm going to dump it out. And because we're moving on to a new shade, we're on to our Airbrush cleansing formula or solution. I'm going to pour that baby in there. I'm going to turn my airbrush back on low. And I'm just going to back bubble and clean. Because we're going into highlight and blush. And I might do some powder bronzer, nice soft matte bronzer, just to tie the look together. But I'm not going to airbrush it because I don't want it to be so sharp. Like I said, I'm just going to gym and I'm going to test this formula out for you guys. Or test the wearability of airbrush out for you guys while I'm working out. And I'm going to go on live after. So I dump it out again. I clean off my airbrush nozzle. I put a little bit more formula in there. Or cleansing solution. I keep saying that. Back bubble. I want all of that out of my brush so it's not mixing in with my other colors. Okay, so I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to start wiping it down. Grab another piece of napkin here. Should have actually grabbed more. And I'm just wiping everything down. I'm wiping around my nozzle. Just keeping it clean. And I'll pull that back and make sure my needle is nice and clean too. You can take your little sponges or your spoolies and you can clean around that too. At the very end, you don't want it to get all gunked up so that your needle is working properly. And I'm quite fond of this complexion. It feels so good. That's my favorite thing about Airbrush, is it's so soft and nice. And it gives people that matte feeling without it feeling like that hard, drying matte that some people just don't like. And that's another thing I like about Airbrush. It gives you the ability to have that. Okay, so I'm all cleaned out. I'm going to highlight first. I'm going to tell you why in 1 second. And it's just because the choice of highlighting and blush shades I have, I would rather go in and highlight first with the Bling It On because it is a lighter, more pearlescent shade, as you'll see when I am putting it on my face. And then I can follow up with Coralia because it's pinker, and I don't mind a little bit of shimmer going into my blush, so that's why I choose to go first. So you're saving yourself time, especially with a client. You're not having to clean it out, clean it out, clean it out, clean it out. That's why you want to make sure whatever work has those same colors and complexion. You do that first, and you just want to make sure whatever can go in there and not disrupt your artistry can go before you have to constantly stop to clean, because you definitely don't want shimmer all over your client when you're doing foundation. So the order of operation is definitely important. So this is the Bling It On highlighter. And I'm just putting a few drops in here. I just did 8 little drops. And I'm going to turn it back on. Low to medium. I don't need to mix it. I'm just going to test it on the back of a white sheet. Make sure that needle and nozzle is doing what I want it to do, and it is. So go in, and I'm just doing my cheekbones. And I'm going to do it just like I do regular highlight. I'm going to do like a crescent moon. Right around there. It's a very subtle highlight, which I like. We do not want to be full beat at the gym, okay? Or maybe we do. Maybe Bay's waiting for us. And you see I'm doing a combination of airbrush strokes. I'm doing the pull out, and I'm lifting up too. And I don't have any eyeshadow on, so if I wanted to take a little bit and turn your air pressure down a little bit, and I just wanted to give a soft sheen to the eyelid, I totally could. I can totally just give some love to that eyelid. It looks very pretty, and because it's airbrushed, it's going to stay really well. And I look to see, I really like that. I like how it looks close up. I like how it looks further away. You can do your Cupid's bow still if you want. And see how pretty that looks? That's a beautiful highlight, right? So I got a little bit in here. I'm going to pour some of that out. Turn that off. Just going to take my paper towel, dig in here, and I'm going to be very slight with this blush, knowing that I'm going somewhere to work out, so I don't want this pinky blush, but I love a nice coral tangerine. I'm just going to do a few drops. And this one's being stubborn. Let's see here. There we go. There we go. This one's just jammed up from not using my airbrush machine in such a long time. There we go. So I'm just going to do a few drops. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. We got her pumped out. She's very vibrant. If you want it to be more shimmery, because this is not a shimmery blush, you can totally put a drop of Bling It On in there, or whatever shimmering airbrush you have in your kit to give it a little bit of color. And of course, you can back bubble that to give it a little bit of that shimmer. So I'm going to turn this on. And I'm going to mix my shades, of course, just like that. There we are. Just back bubble it up. This looks gorgeous though. Look at that highlight. It's so natural. This is why brides want highlight, because look how that looks. This is so flawless. Mama got time in the morning. She might go ahead and airbrush on some foundation because, honey. Now this one I turn up a little bit. Blush I get carried away with, so just imagine how I would do it with airbrush. And I smile and I do a bigger surface because I know it's going on the apples of my cheeks. See how perfect that landed? If I were to do it so close and concentrated, it'd be little pink dots and splatters of blush, and we do not want that for our client, and we do not want that for ourselves. See how perfectly centered that is and matching my face shape, and it's already merging upward with that highlighter. That's what we want. So further away, higher volume of air pressure. Still pulling away. And of course, the more you put, the deeper it gets. So I'm going to check in my mirror. I like how it looks on camera. And that's just enough for me blush wise without going overboard, because I will. Now last thing we're going to do, I've got all of my shades that I want on. As you can see a close up, everything is cohesive. Everything is going upward and lifting the face. Everything's placed where it should be per my face shape. I do have an oval shaped face, more of a rounded head, so everything is lifting up. And I have a lot of meat in my cheeks, so I can get away with putting it directly on the apple and going up. Now that we're all done with our colors, I always make sure I clean everything off. I like to shake them up and put them back in the container. The main thing I like to get to when I buy Airbrush is more color correctors, so I can always custom create my shades. If they don't have the perfect tone for me, which a lot of airbrush companies don't make a million shades because they're meant for you to custom mix. So I always buy things where I can help myself out to perfect my shade. And as you can see, this is well loved because I had to use it to hell. Back when airbrushing wasn't makeup, I had to wear it mostly. So I take my solution, turn my airbrush machine back on, because cleaning is just as important as makeup. And I'm back bubbling it away. And I don't care if this gets messy, because I know I want my airbrush machine to be clean. And they are expensive, so I also want them to last me quite a while. Put a little bit more. Okay, so I just pour a little around the rim. I'll take me a napkin here. I wipe off my top. There we go. I'll turn that off for a second. And I just make sure I wipe down really well. And I'll take my spoolie and get into the needle and just make sure it's very, very clean until next time. And I might leave this out actually and try it for tomorrow. And I like how it's laying on my skin. Look at that. On camera, it looks really nice. And I'll make sure my airbrush machine is really clean, even if I have to take like Beauty Soap Clean or alcohol cleanser to go around the steel. And then I turn it on just to make sure everything's out. I'll make sure the air is running clean as I spray it. I want anything clogged up. I see a little bit of clog, if you guys can see. So I'll turn it off. I'll take one of my spoolies here. I need to get another baggie. This one's falling apart. I'll take my spoolie and I'll go in and gently cleanse around my needle, because you also want to protect your needle. You don't want to damage that either. You don't want that gunking up on you. Airbrush machines are expensive and they need longevity. So see all that gunk? You want to get that out. Get it all out. Pour a little solution in that nozzle. Pour it all out. Turn it back on. There you go. You just want to cleanse it until it's completely wiped free of dirt and solution. And I'm just always very sure to thoroughly cleanse my airbrush machine and my nozzle. Then once I'm done, I put everything away. Whatever's dirty, of course, gets piled together so that we can clean it. If it can't be cleaned properly, we throw it out. So got complexion on. I'm just going to dust over a little bit of bronzer. This is the Hotel Heiress Matte Waterproof Bronzer. So it's going to be a waterproof test today. It's going to go right under where we've airbrushed. And yes, you can take powder and dust yourself a little bit. Nice and natural. And people always ask, can like powders go over the airbrush foundation, which is not a dumb question because you don't know how it's going to react, but it can, as you can see. So I put that on. I'm just going to take some of my Beauty Bakery yellow powder and slightly secure that under eye. And not bake, but just set it with some powder. Same for my nose and forehead. Places I know I get a bit oily or a lot oily. And everything is set. I like where the shadow is placed. I know it's going to stay there. Very pretty. It's very subtle. And last thing not least is we're going to put on lip and we're going to put on some mascara and we're good to go. You see that foundation all over my hair. That's okay. So I've got that done. I'm going to move my airbrush machine out of the way here. And I'm going to go in to finish this look off with Mira Douce Cosmetics lip liner. This is very nice and creamy. I picked a nude tone. And yes, I'm going to wear a nice nude lipstick to the gym because there is no shame in my booty guru game. The highlighter is the best. I absolutely love Airbrush highlighter. It's so pretty. And I don't feel powdery, which is nice. And I like to fill my lips in more than just the perimeter. I think it just has it lets it look fuller, and it also secures that lipstick that's not a liquid matte a little bit longer. So now I'm going in with a cream tart lipstick called Uplift. These are limited edition. These are from our anti-bullying campaign, Kiss and Make Up. And I love the shade, and I think it's so perfect. I think it's so perfect for just a nude tint. An everyday look. Just like that. I'm going to put my lights, camera, flashes on. So good for water resistance. We're going to do a sweat test. It's going to comb those babies up. Comb them up to the good Lord. Got a little clump there. This mascara was sitting in my cold car, so I'm not going to complain. I did it to myself, sis. And I'm not going to bother with bottom mascara tonight, should I say. So we've got our full look. We're going to take the sisters down. Make sure they weren't too entangled because they get so terribly frizzy. And in my eye. And they're starting to fall because these are not actually bangs, as you can see. It's quite long. It's just falling, just gravity. So I pump them up and let them be really tight so that I can be a bang imposter. And I love to live that bang imposter life. And there's our look. There's our look. There is our airbrush foundation. It's definitely no demarcation on our jawline down to the neck. As you can see, it's very nice and flawless. It feels amazing. There's no transfer. And when you're good, that is how you airbrush your foundation and complexion and blush. And I absolutely enjoy it. Very, very pretty and subtle. And we are ready to hit the gym. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I had fun. Hope you did. Also hope you learned something. You can definitely pick up airbrush machines and airbrush materials from the Fiction Pro store located right at the school, 200 Cuts Boulevard. And you can shop at fiction.store if it's just easier for you to do it online. And you can binge watch all of our shows. So subscribe to us, turn on your notifications, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow the Sanitation Conversation, and just stay in touch with all things beauty and business and education at Multimedia Makeup Academy. And we're going to see you on next week's lineup. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this month of February. Good night. Happy weekend.